My name is Deborah Skapik. I've been doing astronomy outreach for 30 years. I started my career in research astrophysics at the University of Hawaii's Institute for Astronomy, studying colliding galaxies in clusters, not solar eclipses, but along the way realized that my passion was really in taking the lofty ideas I was learning and making them accessible to everyone from Girl Scouts to senior citizens. While still doing PhD research with telescopes on Mauna Kea, I accepted a job at Williams College, working as Jay Pasakov's observatory supervisor, thus giving myself quite possibly the longest commute in history. While there, I helped Jay pack up his 2 tons of equipment for eclipse expeditions in Chile and India, and learned a lot about eclipse outreach. Fueled by this, I ran my own outreach trip to the island of St. Kitts in February 1998, visiting 6 schools with my orange C8, as you can see in the bottom, in the days leading up to totality. Since that time, I've continued to teach and run public programs in the Philadelphia area, from the University of Pennsylvania to the 3 schools where I now teach, by day in a high school, online at a community college, and by night at St. Joseph's University. This year, I became one of the NASA partner eclipse ambassadors through the ASP program, as well as a SEAL, yes, shout out, as a SEAL solar eclipse expert. And most of these photos are from this summer, where I was working to spread eclipse literacy to educators, which is what I'm here to talk with you about. In summer of 2017, I ran a week-long summer science academy in observational astronomy at Friends Central in southeastern Pennsylvania, where I prepared 8 high school students and 2 middle schoolers, you can see them up there, for the August 21st solar eclipse. We traveled to South Carolina, not only to get into totality, but so that these students could practice what they had learned, such as teaching others in workshops to make pinhole viewers out of cereal boxes and giving impressive public slideshows. On the big day, the Moon Shadow team was out in Smith Park on Daniel Island, shout out to Daniel Island, enjoying the eclipse for themselves and assisting residents and the press to equip their cameras with filters, look through the telescopes, and more. These students were equipped to do this because their teacher, me, was equipped to teach them to. But in the following years, I've heard disappointing to tragic stories from people about what they were doing during the eclipse. Many of these stories have come from the students, mostly at the community college where I teach. Either they did not know the eclipse was happening or were told to fear it and not look at all. Even more heartbreaking for me is hearing that some teachers decided not to offer their classes the chance to see that eclipse, whether partial or total, because they were not prepared to teach about it. This phantom of fearful, uninformed teachers stuck with me. For the 2024 eclipse, and 2023 for that matter, I resolved to do what I could to get as many teachers eclipse literate, and by reaching them, to get their students outside looking up. So what do teachers want? When K-12 teachers are asked to do things, naturally we want training. This is tricky though, because there never seems to be enough time in the day or year for this. The academic year is brimming. At one moment, you're in the classroom experiencing contact hours, and if you're not doing that, you're prepping or grading stuff or in meetings or in parent conferences or at home being a zombie after all that activity. Time is precious. So teachers really want resources. Books or workbooks or even internet sites they can go to reflexively without having to cobble together things for themselves. There are, of course, resources out there, excellent resources like the ASP's Eclipse Stars program or the Solar Science book by Andy and Dennis Schatz. But a big struggle is getting these materials into the hands of teachers when they need these resources and getting the word out about the training with enough lead time. If teachers do have time to go to a training, I learned that teachers want to get PD credits for what hours they spend there. Many states, maybe all states, require that educators holding certification to teach in the public schools participate in ongoing professional education to maintain their certification. For example, Pennsylvania's Act 48, established in 1999, requires that every 5 years, teachers, those busy teachers, complete the equivalent of 6 collegiate credits or 180 hours of professional development. Remember, this is on top of an already crammed schedule. Lastly, teachers need resources, and are more than likely spending money out of their own pockets to purchase classroom supplies. They appreciate any and all materials that can be used and reused to help educate students. Over summer 2022, I wrote a workbook for K-12 teachers with the April 8th, 2024 eclipse in mind and made a plan to get it into the hands of teachers. Look up below is not a long book, but it contains just enough cool stuff and science information for teachers to understand the 3 basic conditions that must be met for a total eclipse: moon at new phase, at a node, and near perigee, with a glossary defining technical terms. There is a how-to chapter on indirect and direct viewing of eclipses, a chapter noting a few important historical eclipses, and one on indigenous perspectives. But the heart of the book is its activity pages. Those I have organized by age appropriateness, primary, middle, secondary, and have designed to be duplicated and given to students. In other words, when April rolls around and teachers wonder, what can I do to teach my students about the eclipse? All they need to do is run the appropriate hands-on activities with their students and use the rest of the book as a reference for viewing instructions and more. To get this book into the hands of educators hasn't been easy. This summer, I traveled along the northeast part of the eclipse path in an effort to distribute it to as many teachers as possible. A donor from my school funded part of the book printing costs, so I could give away some copies freely to teachers in Title I eligible schools. Over 1 week, at the end of July, beginning of August, I visited 9 public libraries in 4 different states, giving away 77 books and selling just a handful. At most of the locations, I gave a slideshow with a talk, did a Q&A and demos. Some places were very receptive to the eclipse, are excited about it, and are preparing for it. Other places are concerned because the timing places it smack dab in the middle of dismissal time, and school administrators are trying to figure out what to do about transportation. And some towns are just wishing the eclipse would go away because they remember what a problem it was in 2017 and have already canceled school for April 8th so they don't have to deal with it. One library in Indiana, where not a single educator came to my event, told me that. If you have questions about how I set up the logistics for the journey, I'd be happy to answer them during the question time. We still have a lot of work to do. Don't let this mess keep happening. We need to educate the educators. The struggle to reach the educators is real, but surmountable, I think. There are a few things I think we can focus on. How to reach the teachers. Public libraries do seem to be willing partners generally. SEAL is working with them to reach communities, but I think we could also go through them to do events this winter focused specifically on educators. How to entice teachers. 2 things. First, provide professional development credits and give away stuff. It may sound silly, but I want to reiterate that teacher time is precious. In one location this summer, the library did a really great job at advertising my event to the teachers and tempted them away from summer vacation time by promising them that they'd be getting a free book. These teachers also asked me and the librarian directly if they could get PD credits for the workshop, and the librarian took down names and email addresses promising to look into it. If someone in each state could do this and make that information available to Eclipse educators like us, in other words, how to make the workshops we are giving count for this kind of credit, I think that could help. Lastly, the more resources we can give to the teachers, supply kits like the ASP has, Yardstick Eclipse, copies of resources like this book, Andy and Dennis's book and stuff, the better. The ASP Eclipse Stars is great for this. So let's spread the word about it. Thank you very much.